Please welcome Jody Schwartz from UJA Federation of New York.
Growing up in communist Russia, the daughter of 2 engineers, our next speaker first heard she was Jewish at the age of 7, when a classmate derisively called her a Jew. It was then that her grandmother, a school teacher there, said, "I'm going to tell you 2 things. There are 2 Jews in this entire school, you and I, and we are not going to say another word about it ever again." But 6 years later, Irina's grandmother not only spoke to her about being Jewish, she took her to Israel, where 13-year-old Irina stood before the Wailing Wall and suddenly knew she was part of a people. Still, it would take a few decades before she could act on it. Over the years, her family, led by her father, would get involved in opposition efforts to oppose Putin's repressive policies. The Russian police took to spying on her family's activities. Irina even remembers being followed on the street. Finally, she decided to leave Russia for London. Then, in 2006, she made the ultimate move. Irina came home to Eretz Israel. She became a philanthropist, funding organizations that work with children and fought for religious pluralism. And that's not all. This woman, who'd grown up barely knowing about her Jewish heritage, forbidden even to speak about it, became chair of a museum that celebrates the Jewish heritage of people around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my sincere pleasure to introduce the president of the Nadav Foundation and the chairwoman of the board of directors of the Museum of the Jewish People at Beit Hatfutsot, Irina Nevzlin.
Hello. I actually don't have to recognize the Speaker of the Knesset, but I will be happy to recognize him as well. Good morning to all of you. In dialogue, both sides should be willing to change. This quote by the Vietnamese spiritual leader Thich Nhat Hanh inspired me while I was preparing for this speech. I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to have a lot of friends. I barely can see a lot of friends here and my team. Thank you all for being here. And I would like to thank the JF for choosing to focus on a burning topic, Israel and diaspora. We need to talk. We definitely need to talk. I just believe talking is not enough. There is a growing alienation between Israel and the Jewish communities around the world. From my perspective, there are 3 reasons for this growing rift. After thousands of years, all of us here, we were imagining our promised land that would unite us all. For 70 years now, we have Israel. We have a state of our own, but we don't really know how to handle it yet. Our mutual fantasy was very uniting. Reality, sometimes not. This is the first reason for the rift between us. The second reason could be explained by the fact that Jews were all living as minorities for thousands of years. Now, when you are a minority, you have qualities, you've developed qualities like open-mindedness and sensitivity to differences. Sometimes we can find that Israelis, being a majority in our own state, let's just say, can be a little bit less accepting. The third reason for the rift, and I think it's the most important one, is that we don't really know ourselves and we don't really know each other. We just recently had a family event, and I had this feeling where you meet a distant relative, and yes, I do know his name, but frankly, don't tell that to him, I know nothing about his life. This is a very deep problem. The good news is we can do something about it. How? First, let's get to know ourselves. Second, let's accept the fact that there will always be differences. Third, let's talk to get to know each other better. But again, talking is not enough. We must decide what it is that we're talking about. I have a suggestion to all of you. Let's talk about a uniting vision. Let's create a new long-term vision that will bring together Israel and the Jewish communities around the world. Israel was established 70 years ago based on the book Medinat HaYehudim, which Theodor Herzl wrote 50 years before that. Medinat HaYehudim was a forward-looking vision that united the majority of Jews. It's now time to create Herzl Volume 2. Herzl Volume 2 is a vision for Israel and the Jewish people that includes both universal values as well as practical solutions. We all believe in values such as freedom, tolerance, and togetherness, and we provide solutions in the field of education, economy, security, and healthcare. Jews were always innovators, looking forward and dreaming about the future. Therefore, I have to tell you that I'm deeply concerned that there are only 2 countries in the world that have put out an official vision for their future. Do you know what the countries are? Any ideas? Anyone? Okay, it's unfortunate to say it today, but the countries are Saudi Arabia and Slovenia. It's about time we decide, where do we want our country and people to go? What will Israel and the Jewish people look like in the new era? We must take into consideration the dramatic events that took place globally over the past decade. Dream big, but make changes from the solid ground. If each one of us takes responsibility for our future, then we can succeed together as people. But spelling out our vision is also not enough, because ultimately it's all about doing, and doing it together. Some of you are involved in the projects that prove that when you do the right thing together, it creates a long-lasting positive change. Onward Israel comes as an example, as an amazing example of such project. We at the Museum of the Jewish People earlier this year established Andrew and Ann Tisch Center for Jewish Dialogue. You'll get a chance to hear from Andrew in a little while in a panel. Tisch Center serves as a platform and a voice for Jews in Israel and all over the world. Our first gathering will take place in New York in November. The Tisch Center is one of the tools that we offer to all of you to fulfill the mission of this conference. That is, we need to talk. People are stronger together. This is especially true for the Jewish people. In the past decade, we have transformed the Diaspora Museum into the Museum of the Jewish People. Since we opened our new wing 2 years ago, which some of you had the chance to visit yesterday, 500,000 people went through our gates. We are the only museum that tells the whole story of the Jewish people, past, present, and future. We focus and display our success and achievements. We celebrate the fact that Jews are the most powerful network in the world. I'm proud to report that to date, we've raised 95 out of $100 million we're aiming for, so that you could all visit us in 2019 when we opened the new museum. If there's any real strategic threat to the future of State of Israel and the Jewish people, it is the threat of us not being together. So let's each one of us take responsibility for our future, strengthen the feeling of belonging, and connect to our mutual roots. Talking is very important, but it's not enough. So let's not just talk, let's do, and do together. Thank you.